Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, March 30th, 2021. March is slipping away from us. It's been a year now since we started quarantining, wearing masks and social distancing. This past 12 months, I think we all will remember as the year of the COVID, and it's not over yet. So continue to wear your mask and continue to social distance. Welcome to another edition of Tuesday with Thom. Tuesday with Thom, of course, is brought to you by our partners, the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Best Girl customizes solutions to issues of leadership, access and inclusion, economic development, and communication. Best Girl creates the solution that fits your need. Our roundtable guests today, Barbara Wallace Edwards and Mychal Walker, of course, are here, and our special G-list for someone I had the pleasure of working with over the years, the first woman president of Miles College in Birmingham, Alabama, Dr. Bobbie Knight. We look forward to visiting with her this morning. Okay, as we continue with our celebration commemoration of Women's History Month, just a few notations. A few women of note. In 1918, singer Pearl Bailey was born in Newport News, Virginia. In 1965, Viola Liuzzo, a white housewife from Detroit, Michigan, is shot and killed after driving voting rights activists to Selma, Alabama. In 1988, author Toni Morrison, who has penned such works as Tar Baby, Song of Solomon, The Bluest Eye, she received the Pulitzer Prize for her novel Beloved. Beloved is set after the American Civil War, and it tells the story of a family of former slaves whose Cincinnati home is haunted by a wicked spirit. That novel won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1988 and was a finalist for the 1987 National Book Award. It was adapted as a movie in 1998 by the same name, starring Oprah Winfrey. This month, in 1992, the singer Ladonna Adrian Gaines. Does anybody know who Ladonna Adrian Gaines was? She went by the name professionally of Donna Summer. She was an American singer, songwriter, and actress who gained prominence during the disco era of the 1970s. She became known as the Queen of Disco, and she received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Dr. Katherine Jansen is a current history maker. She is the head of the vaccine research and development at Pfizer. And something more current that'll go down in history, I think, is one of our very special films, is One Night in Miami. I don't know if you've seen it. You ought to see it if you haven't. It's directed by first-time director and everyone's favorite actress, Regina King. Many of you know Regina. She won an Oscar for her work on If Beale Street Could Talk. She also won a Golden Globe Award and 4 acting Primetime Emmy Awards. Time magazine named Regina one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2019. The film One Night in Miami is a fictionalized account of the real-life meeting of 4 prolific figures in Black history. On the night of February 25th, 1964, in Miami, Cassius Clay defeated Sonny Liston for the World Heavyweight Championship. Afterwards, he joined Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, and Malcolm X as they discussed the responsibility of being successful Black men during the Civil Rights Movement. Cassius Clay invited Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, and Malcolm X to a victory party, or rather Malcolm X invited them to a victory party to celebrate the newly crowned champion. When they converge in the hotel room where they were going to meet, Clay, Brown, and Cooke are surprised to find that there is no alcohol, no music, no party, nobody of the opposite sex. All Malcolm X has in store for them is a night of debate and reflection with some vanilla ice cream. In her directorial debut, Regina King adapts the Kemp Powers play One Night in Miami, which imagines the 4 icons trying to reconcile their private lives with their public spheres. Cassius Clay is on the verge of becoming a Muslim and changing his name to Muhammad Ali, which would cause quite a stir politically, economically, and in civil rights. Malcolm X is contemplating leaving the Nation of Islam, which could cost him his life. Jim Brown, who is recognized as the best player in the National Football League, decides to retire and to go into the movie business so that he will have more control over his professional pursuits. And Sam Cooke decides to take his music into a broader direction to reach a larger Black audience. Up until that time, most of Sam's audience were white. Okay, and as we end Black Women's History Month, we can look back at our own G list of guests for current history makers. Winona Satcher, top 100 woman entrepreneur in the year 2020. Ann Tucker, chief of the Muskogee Creek Nation of Northwest Florida. Paulette Patterson Dilworth, chief diversity officer at UAB. Dr. Joyce Gilly Gossom, current president of Impact 100 of Northwest Florida. And of course, today's G list guest, Dr. Bobbie Knight. We salute you all. So let's move to our roundtable guests and introduce Barbara Wallace Edwards and Mychal Walker. Barbara Wallace Edwards is a Mobile, Alabama native currently living in Birmingham. Barbara, how are you this morning? Good morning. I think we're having a little trouble with Barbara this morning. Barbara, can you keep trying and let's see. I can't hear you right now. We may want to try to go out and come back in, or you and Emily please chat about it, and I'll just go to Mychal Walker and we'll come back to you, Barbara. Mychal, how are you?
I am doing well this morning, Thom. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Mychal is the president of the Walker Insurance Agency, a full-service insurance brokerage in Atlanta, Georgia. Mychal, what's going on in your world?
Well, Thom, several things are going on. As I mentioned, I just received my second dosage of the Pfizer vaccine, and I want to encourage everyone to try and go get vaccinated. There's concern that there's going to be another surge with states and governors rolling back some of the limitations. So it would be certainly helpful if everyone get vaccinated. I'd like to talk a little bit about what's going on with the world of politics and healthcare. Senator Bernie Sanders, he is hoping to include a Medicare expansion plan in the upcoming economic recovery with the Democrats. And by that, what he wants to do is lower the eligibility rate from 65 down to 60 or 55 years of age. And in doing so, he wants to add a little bit more coverage to the Medicare plans, such as making sure they cover dental visits, glasses, and other medical costs. You know, I'm not sure how much Senator Bernie Sanders knows about Medicare, but private health insurers work along with Medicare, providing that coverage, such as Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Cigna, just to name a couple. And they have what's called a Medicare Advantage plan that does provide some form of dental care, glasses, transportation, and other things. So I'm not sure if he is very much aware of how that works in with Medicare. But I will say that he also wants to lower drug prices. The entire Democratic Party wants to do that. He wants to do it by allowing Medicare to negotiate directly with drug manufacturers to lower the cost. Right now, that is prohibited. The way he planned on getting this through is through budget reconciliation. When the Democrats put forth their infrastructure and economic recovery plan, the next phase, he wants to slide that in through reconciliation. The key part about that is that if he does it that way, it will not require any Republican votes to get it passed.
Which is probably the only way it is going to pass.
I would tend to agree with you on that.
Let me ask you a question. Because there have been, for the last 3 months, there have been all these commercials. Joe Namath has just beat me to death with his commercial on about Medicare, and they talk about all, and it's aimed at seniors. And it's,
yes,
to me, it's kind of aimed at seniors who maybe aren't as in tune as they ought to be. But he talks about free. Everything is free and get everything that you deserve. because you deserve this. Free eyeglasses, free drugs, free rides to the grocery store, everything but a free house. So tell me how this works.
Well, that's really somewhat of overhyping Medicare and the program he's working with. It's interesting you bring that up because, full disclosure, as a member of the National Association of Health Underwriters and soon to be the regional vice president of National Association of Health Underwriters, I've also sat on the Medicare Advisory Committee, and we have been fighting CMS for allowing people like Joe Namath and other people to come out and make all these claims that are not completely accurate. Whereas those of us that are professional insurance agents that deal in that, if we were to do that, CMS would come down hard on us. However,
CMS is
Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
Okay.
They would come down hard on us. However, they are allowing these companies that are nothing more than marketing organizations. And so that's a hook to get the seniors to call in on this free 1-800 number. And then they have a phone bank of people there that then tries to guide them through a plan. Just like I said a few minutes ago, with a Medicare Advantage plan, and I'll just use United Healthcare as an example, if someone has Medicare Part A and Part B, a senior, 65 years of age, they can stay in original Medicare, which is just Part A and Part B. Or they can choose to get a Medicare supplement plan, which will fill in the gaps of what original Medicare doesn't cover. Or they can go to a Medicare Advantage plan. By going to a Medicare Advantage plan, they get additional benefits, like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about, I don't know how much the senator knows, but in a Medicare Advantage plan, you get free glass. You get glasses like every 2 years, you get money to get new frames. And every so often you get money to get the contact lenses or the lenses on glasses. That's what Joe Namath was talking about, free. Okay? But it's really not free, because a Medicare Advantage plan may cost you $30 a month for premium, or $40 depending on the plan. And if you go to see a specialist, it could cost you up to $50. However, that's just an added benefit that the carriers put in there, but it's really not free. But they say free because it comes with the package. And the same thing about transportation. Even there are more plans out there now that are offering meals to seniors. Say if they go into the hospital and then they come home, they will deliver meals to them for a certain period of time. So these are the things that he's saying is free, but it's all inclusive in their plan. So that's what I mean when I say it's a hook to get them to call in.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. I think we're still having a little trouble with Barbara. So you got anything else going on that you want to talk to us about this morning?
Well, again, I want to go back to the vaccination. As you know, in the African American community, we've had a history of distrust with the government and it coming to vaccination. We all know about the Tuskegee projects and different things like that. However, I would like to convey to our audience, please do not let that deter you from getting vaccinated in this particular situation. It just came out yesterday that after the first vaccination shot, it would give you up to 50% or so protection. And then the second one would get you into the 90s after a couple of weeks. Now, we know that Johnson & Johnson has come out and it's a one-shot deal. We have many people in the minority community, and when I say minority, I'm not just talking about African American, I'm talking about Latino and what have you, and even poor people that may not be considered minorities that do not trust the vaccine. We will never get to herd mentality where we have enough people vaccinated so that the virus goes away and it doesn't impact people if we don't get everybody who's eligible to become vaccinated. And it's very important. You have people that can get infected and may not know that they're infected, but it develops over time issues, even related to the heart and other vital functions. So I want to encourage everybody, just bite the bullet, go ahead and get your vaccination.
Well, I'm going to agree with you. I think, and I got the Moderna, I guess, back in February, and got the 2-shot deal. And I guess I was just lucky in that I didn't have any side effects. I had a little soreness the first day, nothing the second time. And you're talking to a guy who doesn't like to take shots, just because they hurt, not because it might do something else. So,
well, I have to tell you, Thom, I kind of used you yesterday because I know how much you hate needles and taking shots. And I know how you talk about when you got your shot, you look the other way and get all tense and everything. So when I went in yesterday to get my shot, I pulled my sleeve up. I said, I'm not going to be like Thom. I'm going to look at her stick this needle in my arm and see what Thom is afraid of. So that's what I did yesterday. And it goes in pretty far, but I was watching the whole thing.
Okay, well, I don't look, and oh my goodness, when I go to the dentist and they pull out that big old thing, it's like, oh, I just feel myself just tensing up, and it's like, relax, man, relax. But I had allergies as a child, and I got shots every week for about 3 years, and until finally I told my mom, I said, I'm not going anymore. So that's how that. I think Barbara may be back. Let's see if we can get her on here. Barbara, are you out there? Yeah, looks like she's still having issues. I'm so sorry, Barbara. Yeah, I heard you then. Well, but you're breaking up. I know Emily's working on it.
That's not
let me we got several people, several comments here. I don't know if Barbara, are you able to? Anyway, Paula from Arizona says good morning. Helen says good morning. Jose, my good friend, Jose Garcia, says blessed Tuesday. Barbara Miller says good morning. And Becky Davis Gibson down in, I think, Tampa, Central Florida, I know that, it says good morning. And Barbara Miller from Birmingham. We're glad to have you guys on. Thank you for being on. Let's see. Barbara, I'm still trying to get with you, and I'm sorry I can't.
Yeah.
You're frozen. I know I see M's working on you. Are you there?
Yes. I'm still here.
Okay. Well, let's so tell me what's happening with you.
Thom, I'm preparing for this weekend. Hopefully I'll have a chance to get with my siblings. We haven't all gotten together and had dinner together in over a year now. So I'm looking forward to meeting up with my siblings on the East End.
Okay, well, you got to be careful. This thing is still out there.
Thank you.
So just make sure you practice the social
Absolutely.
distancing
We're
as best you can.
We will.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you. It looks like we may end up wrapping up this session here. Anything, Barbara, you want to try one more time? You got anything else you want to try?
You all may have already talked about this, but Martinez continues, and our last SEC team lost last night. Arkansas lost to Baylor. So we don't have any SEC teams remaining in the men's section of the NCAA tournament, but we still have South Carolina pulling the. Look forward to watching that game tonight.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's the women's side, right? Okay. Well,
Yes.
Bobbie, any final comments from you, Barbara? I hate to have cut you so
No, that's
short.
it, Tom.
So,
You.
okay. Mychal, you got any final comments?
Uh, no, I don't. I'd just like to say congratulations to all of the men's SEC basketball teams that made the NCAA, and congratulations on getting as far as you got, and the same with the women's side of the bracket.
Okay. All righty. Well, let's go to our best girl message, and we'll come back with our G-list guests.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly Gossom, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
All right. Well, let's go to the G list. The G list is where everybody is a star. Remember, Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. Let's see. Our guest today is Dr. Bobbie Knight. I've been knowing Dr. Knight for quite a few years, knowing her family as well. She is the first woman to lead the private, historically Black liberal arts college, Miles College. She's held many executive positions throughout the Birmingham community. She's currently chair of the Birmingham Airport Authority. She's been executive with Alabama Power. She was on the board, I think the chair of the board at the Civil Rights Institute. She co-chaired Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin's transition teams. She holds a bachelor's degree in communication from the University of Alabama and has a law degree from the Birmingham School of Law. Dr. Knight, welcome this morning. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Thom. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Miles College. We talked a little before the show.
Yeah.
I can remember one of my aunts went to Miles College, and I remember as a child her taking me to a football. It was the first football game I'd ever been to.
Oh, wow.
How exciting it was, and so on and so forth. And then after I finished playing ball at Auburn, we would go to Miles and work out. A bunch of guys would meet out there and work out. So I've had some familiarity with it. But can you tell me what, I guess I'll say, motivated you to go into higher ed? Is that the right way to put it?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So as you know, Thom, I was happily retired. And after almost 38 years with Alabama Power and Southern Company. And really, Gary and I were just enjoying life. And I was serving on the board of trustees at Miles College. And one day I got a phone call and somebody said, hey, the board chair wants to meet with you. Can you meet with us? She wants to have lunch with you, yada, yada. And I said, okay, what's this about? And they wouldn't tell me. I thought, well, this is bizarre. So
if they had told you, you might have gone there.
I wouldn't have gone to lunch. But long story short, she said she wanted, the president at the time took a job at Clark Atlanta, and she wanted me to consider being the interim president. And I was like, what? That's like bizarre. But anyway, they laid out all of these reasons why, it would work out with me and yada, yada. And so I talked to Gary about it, prayed over it, talked to a couple of other folks about it. And they said, Bobbie, you ought to do it. And so, when at lunch, she said, oh, it'll only be for like 9 months. I said, okay, I can do 9 months. I can keep it in the road for 9 months. Now, not knowing much about higher ed other than what, my experience on the board of trustees. But anyway, so I said, okay, 9 months. Well, when we got ready to sign the contract, she said, well, let's make it 12 months. And I said, okay, I'll do 12 months. And then in March of 2020, was it? Yeah, March of 2020, the Board of Trustees met and they voted to ask me to become permanent president. And it was really an amazing show of confidence in me. But I really think it had a lot to do with the fact that I brought money in. And that's what a college president does, is you raise money, you bring resources to the table. And I did that. In fact, my first contribution or gift was from Charles Barkley. We were at dinner one night, my husband and Charles and some other folks, and Gary, my husband, was sitting between me and Charles, and I heard him tell Gary, "Man, I'm going to give your wife $1 million." And I said, "What did he say? Did he say what I thought he said?" And it was the truth. I mean, I didn't ask for a dime. He just said, "I'm going to give her $1 million to help her at Miles College." And he came out to the school and visited, and with the students at that time, it was pre-pandemic. And so it was wonderful. So I think they liked the fact that I had some connections in the business community and around the state, and with people who could bring resources to the table.
You've done, speaking of resources, you've done some other things in terms of establishing some partnerships for the college and it's interesting that you say that, because college presidents today, yes, of course, the whole education thing is important, and you have to have that background, and you've got the background on the board. But at the same time, it's a business.
It's a business.
And so you've established some partnerships for Miles College. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Thom. So what I did is I actually approached it as a business, and I used my background to look for partnerships that would bring resources. Let me back up and say that the first thing we did was Miles College had one federal grant, and they wanted me to launch this $100 million capital or comprehensive campaign. Wow. And I said, before I can go to somebody to raise money, I need to bring money into the college first, and I need to be able to do it without going to the corporate or philanthropic community. And so we did that by actually going for grants. And we went for we had Title III. That was the only grant we had federal, but we went for a TRIO grant. That's a $5.3 million grant. We went for a Department of Interior's grant for $500,000. We went for, there's so many grants. So long story short, I brought in $10 million without launching any kind of campaign. But part of that $10 million includes some of those partnerships you talked about. For instance, we signed a partnership agreement with IBM. And what IBM does for us is they actually provide software training, not software, but training for our faculty and students in blockchain, artificial intelligence, some other things, logistics, et cetera. And so that's valued at about $5 million. That's the value of that. It's free to us. And as long as we don't charge our students for it, and we don't, because we make it a part of their current, if they're majoring in business and they're or information resources, it's just a part of the curriculum that they're taking, a part of their coursework. And so we signed an agreement also with Southern Company and Apple with the Propel Center in Atlanta. We signed an agreement with a Southern Company again. We actually received a grant from them to stand up an Empower Center, which is a technology center for students where we will teach e-gaming, believe it or not. And, so sidebar, do you know those jobs start at like $70,000 in the gaming? It's like, okay, so why wouldn't we want our students to learn that? Exactly. Let's see. We're getting ready to enter into a partnership with the FBI, and that partnership is going to be around getting our students ready for careers. And what they want to do is start early. So they want to start with freshmen, and then mentor them and mold them, and then bring them on into the Bureau. And we already have a partnership with the CIA that's been a long-standing partnership. Let's see, what else? Oh, we signed a partnership with Goldman Sachs and Hope Corporation. And let me see what else.
I gotta ask you. So now, are you making all these calls? You got a staff that's working with you that has the contacts. And
so a lot of it is relationships. And so what I've been doing, Thom, is what I call friend raising. And I actually talked to General Charles Krulak, who retired, I think was a 5-star general in the Marine Corps. And he also served as president of Birmingham Southern.
I remember him.
Okay, General Krulak told me, Bobbie, you need to do this. You need to take it. You're going to love it. You know, you're going to love the students. They're going to love you, yada, yada. So anyway, he said, but look, don't start out fundraising. Start out by friend raising. And so that's what I've done. Now, I also brought in some really key people. I brought in a provost. And can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay.
It froze, but I hear you. You're good.
Okay. Brought in a provost who's like an expert in academia. So, you know, got that covered. I have a vice president of institutional advancement. So I don't go it alone, but you know, it's amazing. I think it's part of the times, you know, HBCUs right now are really cool. And I think it's part of the times, but it's also a lot of hard work to get those partnerships.
So speaking of part of the times, you're the first woman. Yeah. And it's Women's History Month. We're winding that down. Is that part of the times as well, or how has that?
So it's bizarre because it appears that way. You know, every few months you hear about a new woman president who's the first woman to lead an institution, and it's kind of wild. You know, Miles has been around since 1898. Here's really the thing that's so amazing is I'm not just the first woman, but I'm also the first non-CME and the first non-minister. Yeah, now, you know, I'm not a preacher, but so really it's like times maybe they are changing a little bit.
That's great. That's absolutely wonderful. I'm going to bring Mychal and Barbara in, and then I'll have some follow-up questions, but let them get some questions in as well. Hopefully Barbara we will be able to connect with her and hear from her. Barbara, you wanna see if you can chime in here? Oh, we still got issues. I'm so sorry.
Oh.
Mychal, you want to go with a question?
Sure.
Okay, I did hear you then.
You did hear me? Okay. Go ahead, Mychal.
Okay. You know, it's interesting with you being vice president of Alabama Power, Southern Company, and then moving over to Miles to be president. I want to ask you two questions. One is, what was your most challenging aspect of your job as VP of Southern Company and Alabama Power? And then moving to Miles, what's your most challenging aspect of the job?
Ooh, Mychal, that's like a really deep question, but it's a great one. So.
Well, I did go to Auburn.
I won't hold that against
you. I was going to say, don't hold it against him.
No, I'm not going to hold it against him. So in corporate, as you know, it's really different. Huh?
Bobbie, excuse me a minute. I didn't know if he thought he saw you with those glasses on, so he had to put that Auburn shirt on with the big letters. To make sure you could see it.
Make sure I could see it. Yeah, I can see that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So corporate, the corporate world is challenging. Period. You know, because you've got to maneuver and when you're a woman and when you're Black and you're trying to compete in corporate America, it has its own set of challenges, but none that are too difficult to overcome for anybody. But I think for my career, keeping up with and figuring out how to best serve our customers at Alabama Power Company was always a challenge because, you know, nobody likes you. You know, they think you're a big monopoly and you can do what you want and that sort of thing. And it's not really true. And we spent a lot of time really focusing on the customer and how we can change our processes to better serve the customer. Now at Miles, the challenge is, do you have teenagers?
No, I do not. Not anymore.
Okay, well, you did have teenagers.
I did, yes.
Okay, so I have like, you know, maybe 1,400 teenagers and young adults, and they have become like my children. So I have all of those challenges all those things that young people face. And for them, everything is a crisis. And you have to try to help them through that. You know, Miles College has a lot of students that are first generation students. And, you know, a lot of them are on Pell Grant, and they don't come from the kind of backgrounds that where their parents can just write a check and send them to college. And so they have some unique and challenging needs. And I think the pandemic added to that in a major way, because we have dealt with some students who, when we had to shut down the campus back in March of last year, they didn't have a home to go back to. So then you got to work with them to find, help them find some resources. There are a lot of kids who had when they did go home, there were food insecurities. They didn't have technology, or they had to share one computer with a lot of students. So, you know, with our CARES Act money, we were able to purchase laptops for every student that needed one. And a lot of them have suffered losses of parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles. This pandemic has brought a lot to the forefront of not just what we deal with. I know how bad it's been on me personally, but for young people, it presents a lot of greater challenges.
Okay. Yes. I've heard stories about the mental, for the lack of a better term, mental anguish or mental suffering of teenagers because of isolation and the disruption in their lives and what have you. So I can certainly relate to that. Yes. Well, the other question I'd like to ask you is, you mentioned earlier that HBCU is cool now. And that's true. You're getting a lot of notoriety and publicity. Deion Sanders to Jackson State, and several blue chip athletes have decided to spurn Power 5 conferences and go to an HBCU, especially in basketball, probably more so in basketball than football. From your perspective, what do you see the future of HBCs? We know it's important in our society, but where do you see HBCs going?
So, you know, I get asked that question a lot, and a lot of people will add on to that, are HBCUs still relevant? And my answer is always the same, absolutely relevant. I think the future is bright. You know, we were very fortunate to get through this pandemic, and there are some institutions that didn't make it. I was reading yesterday about a college, it was PWI, but that closed because they couldn't make it during the pandemic. But we have had people lobbying in Washington for HBCUs for some time now, through UNCF or the Thurgood Marshall folks. And we have been fortunate to get funding through the CARES Act, and then through the HERTH funding, the second round of CARES Act. And actually, if we had a loan from the HBCU capital fund, those loans have been forgiven. So you will be wiping off about $5.1 million off of our books in debt. And with what we've been able to do with all of the funding really has helped keep us where we need to be. Now it's up to us to go out and continue to recruit students and bring students in and get our what I believe are those metrics that matter, like graduation rate and all of that, get those things up so that we're putting out a better product in the job market.
Okay. All right.
Let me ask a question here, and we'll come back to Mychal, and we'll see if we can get Barbara on. You went to the University of Alabama.
I did.
I went to Auburn. Mychal went to Auburn. Barbara went to Auburn. And of course, at that time, we were very much in the minority in terms of just numbers and not only thought processes and so on and so forth. How do you take what you learned in terms? I always say when I left Auburn, I not only had a degree, I was educated. I knew how to work. What do you try to do with your students in terms of, is there some comparison between your education and how they're being educated, and if there's any differences there, or what I take from one to another?
I think the differences, Thom, have to do with the student's ability to maneuver in a large or small college environment. There are some students who do their best and become their best at an HBCU or a small institution, a small private or just a small institution, period. Some students will get lost in a big university. And so some of the students that have transferred, in fact, to Miles from a larger institution have basically said that they didn't meet friends, they couldn't find themselves, they just didn't have that. You come to Miles College and you can sit down in the caf and have lunch with the president of the college. You can't do that at Auburn or Alabama or other institutions. You know, you walk across the campus and you can stop me, or they do they use these things and they tweet me private tweets all the time, and I answer. I don't care what time of night it is. If it's 2:00 in the morning and I get a private tweet from a student, I answer, and they know how to get to me. And so some of them need a different kind of environment to prosper and they're doing it. So I'm very pleased. Hey, I do want to say one thing. You talked about, all of you talked about the pandemic, and I do want to say that Miles College applied for and has been approved to be a vaccination center. We have provided vaccines. All of our faculty and staff have been vaccinated who wanted to, and I believe it was almost all. And we have been approved to order and house the vaccines, and we're actually going to order in our new health center. We're going to order the Johnson & Johnson one-stop vaccine and hopefully vaccinate all of our students before the end of the semester.
As I remember growing up, Miles College was, for lack of a better term, and before they came about, was a community college.
Yeah.
It was a college that Fairfield, Inslee, that area, that they all migrated to, and it was a part of the community. Is that part of where you're trying to go back to now?
It is, Thom. There are so many needs in Fairfield, and when you ride through Fairfield now, it's not the same Fairfield that you remember. And there's not even a grocery store. There's not a Walmart. And the Walmart closed down in Fairfield. So you have a Home Depot, and then you have some smaller mom and pop and like a Sonic and a McDonald's, of course. But I don't even know if there's McDonald's. But so part of my vision for Miles is that we become a major part of what drives the growth and development in the Fairfield community. And so when we wanted to become a vaccine center, it was not just for our students or our faculty and staff, it was for the broader community.
Okay. Just Barbara's still having trouble, but she sent a question in the chat. And Barbara says, are there plans to grow and expand the law school? at Miles?
Oh, Barbara, that's a great question. So I don't know if you know this, but the law school it's a Miles College law school, and it was founded by Miles College, but they're independent of us. And I actually want to expand it. I want it back. They know I want it back. And there are a lot of the alumni and former faculty of Miles College Law School who actually are interested in us. We've had several meetings about it. I've met with the Smithermans, Judge Smitherman and Senator Smitherman, several graduates and faculty who are interested in the future of the law school. And so I believe that if we get it back at Miles, we can actually bring in a lot of funding to help grow it.
Okay. So it operates on your campus, but it's owned, so to speak, separately.
Yes. Separate board of trustees, all that.
Okay. Let me see. Let me go back to Mychal, and Barbara's still having trouble. So Barbara, if you can put another question in the chat, that would be great, if you hear me. Mychal, you got something else for the president?
Sure. We've talked about COVID and what have you, and the shortfalls among HBCUs. And first of all, I want to say, I think having someone like yourself with a business background and working in corporate America to come over to be president at an HBCU is a brilliant move. And the reason why I say that is that my limited experience in dealing with HBCUs, it's hard to get them to move into the 21st century. You're laughing, but you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to get them to take advantage of opportunities that are available that could help them. They seem not to be able to connect the dots. So my question is, how do you see HBCUs evolving because of the pandemic and how they're being forced to rethink what they do?
So great observation and question. I talk to a lot of the HBCUs, and since this is Women's History Month, I'm going to talk about the female, my sister presidents. That's what we call each other. And we have chats and Zoom meetings, and we lift each other up and do all of those really great things. And not that we're trying to exclude the men, but there are so many of us that are new in this role. But what I'm finding is that there are more presidents that are like me who actually had another background, had another business. For instance, Dr. Warwick at Stillman College was a pharmacist and has some business background. And, so when she retired from that career, she was asked to come to Stillman College. I think the president of Spelman has a background in business, and the president of Tennessee State, even though she's been in academia for some time, she also has a background in business and industry. So I think it really, really helps when you can bring a different perspective to the table, because it is a business. There are some things that are very different, but it's no different than, in my case, I worked for a utility that was highly regulated. So you had all of these government entities that regulate you. Well, when you get federal funds as a college or university, you have to comply with all of these regulations with the Department of Education and what have you. So there's really not that big of a difference if you look at it like, it's a business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And our business is educating students, and students are our customers. A lot of folks don't agree with me on that. A lot of people in academia don't see the student as the customer. They say they're our partner. No, I believe we serve the student.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah. Barbara says, and she's still having troubles, when you said it's hard to get them to move somebody said get them to move into the 20th century. Barbara says it's hard to get any university to move into the 21st century. This is not just applicable to HBCU.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the thing about trust and distrust again. In areas where you have an HBCU closely either geographically aligned with a majority university, such as Auburn and Tuskegee, or in the same city as a majority university or whatever, I've seen those colleges and universities try to have partnerships.
Yeah.
But there is that thing that keeps that partnership from being as successful as it could be. And it is a distrust, primarily because one group over here has got all the resources, and
Right.
this group over here is trying to get the resources. Miles doesn't necessarily have that. I mean, you're in the same city with UAB, but you're certainly not geographically next door neighbors or anything. Does that cause any issue for you guys?
So it's certainly one of the areas that I have focused a great deal on, and that is partnering with other colleges and universities, whether they're PWI or an HBCU. I work very closely with the president of Alabama State University. We're looking, in fact, we're playing them in our first game in the fall in football. But we're working together in a lot of different ways. We are on some grants with UAB. I think we've typically done that. It's easy to do that. And there are believe it or not, a lot of PWIs that need HBCUs as a partner on grants because it's a requirement. And so, Miles is open for business. We'll partner with you. Now, we're not going to do it for nothing. And, we're not going to provide our resources and our students and help your research or what have you, and we get nothing out of it. It's got to be a win-win for us. And we don't want to get swallowed up by such a large university that, it doesn't really benefit the school or our students.
Barbara is back on the chat, and she says, can you please further discuss Miles's affiliation with Ed Farm and the Propel Center?
Yeah, so great question, Barbara. So as you know, I don't know if you know what the Propel Center is, but the Propel Center is it's a center it's not physically built yet, but it is going to provide virtual training for HBCUs that have signed on to this partnership with Southern Company and Apple. The idea of the Propel Center was born out of the great mind of an Auburn grad, I hate to say, and that's Anthony Oney. Anthony, I hired Anthony when I was at Alabama Power Company when he interned as a college student, and then right out of college, I hired him. So I can claim that I have molded his mind in spite of the fact that he went to Auburn. But this was his idea, and he saw this vision of how you could provide services and resources where students could actually take courses virtually. And this was before COVID. This idea came out before COVID, but how you could have it so that any student, regardless of where you go to school, has access to technology or classes that can help you in the future and perhaps even position you to get a position with or a career with Apple or other tech companies, et cetera. So it's going to be a state-of-the-art facility. It's going to actually sit in the Atlanta University Center. Now, I lobbied hard. And I told Anthony, I said, Anthony, you have so disappointed me because I really wanted that center to be in Birmingham. But, it made sense, I guess, for it to be in Atlanta.
Well, that's what they always say. Mychal, you got time for one last question?
Sure.
Let me just give some people in the chat. Paula's in the chat. Helen, there's a question from Instructor Forte. I assume somebody Bobbie. She says, yes, we serve the students, and she had a comment earlier.
Okay.
I'm always impressed with President Bobbie Knight. She is a force. Kudos to the Miles PR team Respectfully, a UAB Blazers alum. Okay. And hashtag women who lead. So, okay. Where are we now? Was it you, Mychal?
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead, man.
No problem. Speaking of Atlanta, we all know the history between the Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson Airport and the Birmingham Airport. And I know you serve on the Airport Authority. I think you may share that. Can you give me some ideas about what's to be expected with the Airport Authority there in Birmingham? Any plans for expansion, or where are you guys on that?
So thank you for that question. Right now, I am the vice chair. I was the chair. And when my term expired, actually David Germany, a young man who is very, very bright, I think he went to the University of Alabama. But anyway.
Too bad.
So he's currently the chair. And
I ain't going to say what I usually say.
I shouldn't have gone there, but I couldn't help it.
I hear you.
But who went to the playoffs? I don't know. So anyway, so all airports, the service has been down, right? And so it went really, really way down. But the employees still had to work. We still had to comply with FAA regulations, and so fortunately we did take out the PPP loan, but we couldn't let anybody go because the work of the airport had to go on. There were still flights. There just were not as many. But I can tell you that so far it's ramping up. Now, what happens with the Birmingham airport is the bulk of our business is from business travel. And so that still remains down, but leisure travel is picking back up, which is good. But we've actually had some new flights to add on. So we've got some airlines that are slowly coming back. Back in the fall, I believe the airline industry basically said they predicted it would be 2023 before we were fully back to where we were pre-pandemic. I'm hoping that that's not the case, but because things are ramping up a bit. But with business travel, so many people have gotten accustomed to working virtually, and they figured out you don't actually have to be sitting in a conference room next to somebody. So maybe that travel isn't as necessary. In fact, I know some law firms who are shutting down some of their big offices, and they're working from home, and they'll just have a smaller location, and they say that's how they're going to operate in the future. So, but I'm hopeful that it's going to ramp back up. We won't look at expansion of any kind until the time is right. There are always plans in place to do so. We're very fortunate that even though travel has been down, a lot of the big planes from Delta and some of the other airlines are actually come in for maintenance at the airport. And what we get out of that is we get landing fees. So we make money with whoever flies in there. And even if they're not taking anybody out, if they come in there to get serviced, we make money off of that. And that's a good thing for us. So.
Cool. Let me ask this one quick question. Sure. Has there been any discussion regarding having passengers or customers that fly in and out of there show their COVID card showing that they got vaccinated? There's been a lot of talk about that.
Yeah, I don't. That would be an airline thing, and I'm not sure. I've heard that some airlines might go to that, but I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I'm actually flying next week for the first time. I'm going. Is it next week or week after? I'm going to Kentucky.
Okay.
I haven't flown in a while. I worked on the airport authority. I worked with the board for a few years back when Southwest came in, and actually Southwest created some competition because you had people who would actually drive from Atlanta to Birmingham to take Southwest because of fares.
Right.
And we would lose that, but what we did get, we would get the parking, so we make a lot of money on our parking as well. They come
So,
and park there. Yeah.
so Bobbie, it's been great. Thank you so much. Let me just say that I've been knowing you a long time. If I can be of any service at any time, please call on me.
Thank you.
And Joyce said good morning.
Hey, Joyce.
So thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful. I appreciate everything you're doing there.
Thank you.
And we will be talking further. So,
all right.
Barbara says.
Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Well, thank you. Let me just say, as we leave Women's History Month, which should probably be every month, let's leave it with a little history. Women's History Month traces its beginnings back to the first International Women's Day in 1911. In 1978, the school district of Sonoma, California, participated in Women's History Week, an event designed around the week of March 8th, which is International Women's Day. 1979, a 15-day conference about women's history was held at Sarah Lawrence College from July 13th until July 29, co-sponsored by that college. And in 1980, my favorite president, President Jimmy Carter, issued a presidential proclamation declaring 1980 as National Women's History Week. The proclamation stated, from the first settlers who came to our shores, from the first American Indian families who befriended them, men and women have worked together to build this nation. Too often the women were unsung, and sometimes their contribution went unnoticed. But the achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and love of the women who built America was as vital as that of the men whose names we know so well. And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for viewing. We appreciate everybody's comments. It's a wrap. I want to thank the audience. Thank Mychal, Barbara, Dr. Bobbie Knight. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl. If you're interested in having your business be a sponsor of the show, get in touch with us. Let me thank Emily Hedrick, the communicator, our producer. Thanks Sean Jones, the organizer. It's a wrap. Enjoy every day. Make every day count. Stay safe and peace.